How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Hip Drop Podcast. Lucas and I are back, uh, recapping week 3 and looking ahead to week 4, which kicks off tomorrow night with an NFC West showdown between the Arizona Cardinals and the Seattle Seahawks, two 2-1 teams. So Lucas and I will go through all the week 3 games as we put a bow on it, and then we'll look ahead to week 4. There's some bigger storylines that go into each game. There's a team, the Giants making a quarterback change, the Lions announcing that they're still here. And then there are 6 undefeated teams. Lucas and I will rank them from most legitimate to probably to least legitimate, and we'll do that before we make our week 3 picks. Before we get into all that, Lucas, how you doing on this Wednesday, the 24th?
I'm doing okay. Kind of had a busy day, had to run around with some car trouble, but I'm finally glad to be back and recap some games, most of which I did not watch live because I kind of took a mini vacation this weekend. So I honestly, the only game I watched start to finish was the Chiefs Giants game. So
Well,
kind
yeah,
of had
that
to do
game wasn't
some,
very.
and it was the stupidest game. We might talk about it later in some capacity because one of our
Yeah,
topics, but one of the
that game
stupidest
was
games you'll ever see.
a rough watch in the first half. The Chiefs did pull away in the second half. But we're gonna go back. We're gonna go back almost a week to a game that I was at live: the Buffalo Bills and the Miami Dolphins. The Bills won 31-21 in a game that was a lot closer than many people, myself included, and Lucas anticipated. It was actually tied, and then the Bills had to punt, but Miami does what bad teams do. They committed a roughing the punter penalty, and the Bills capitalized with a touchdown pass from Josh Allen to Khalil Shakir. And then Miami was driving to go tie the game, and then Tua threw maybe the most predictable interception in NFL history, right to Terrell Bernard, that sealed the win for the Bills. The Bills are 3-0. The Dolphins still winless. They fall to 0-3. Josh Allen in this game, I mean, was pretty kind of a game manager. He did throw 3 touchdowns, but he was kind of dinking and dunking all over the field, taking what Miami's defense gave him. Tua, I actually thought played better than I expected him to through 3 quarters, and then Tua might be the least clutch quarterback I've seen in a while. Like whenever he has the ball late, like he's going to throw a pick, or he's going to screw up somehow, and he did it again. And look, Mike McDaniel saved his job. I think Mike McDaniel coached a pretty good game here, but my big takeaway is that the Dolphins fought. They played harder than I expected them to, but the Bills, despite the win, I do think they have some concerns, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. They have not looked good defensively 2 out of the 3 games. Like getting lit up by Baltimore, that's one thing. Getting lit up by Miami, who I understand does have good receivers. It's a Miami team that basically like looks like it's hated each other throughout the entire offseason and the first 2 weeks, and that game was tied in the fourth quarter. So, Lucas, what's your big takeaway for this one? What's your read on the Bills right now?
That they're not a perfect team. I mean, they looked really strong in the fourth quarter of week 1 against the Ravens. They looked pretty strong start to finish against the Jets, but I think we could really say that the Ravens did a lot of collapsing in that game and the Jets are the Jets. But this game, it kind of showed they have flaws. And I understand that teams are not going to play perfect at all 17 games. That's just not their thing. But I just, although I think the Bills will have a very good record this year, and I think they're going to win their division going away because they're the only competent team. They're not passing the eye test. I don't care. They're 3-0. They're just not passing it for me. I'm not saying there's some frauds that are going to go one and done, but I don't really understand the people who are saying this team is more likely to win the Super Bowl this year than any other year, other than the fact that maybe they have an easier path to the 1 seed. But in terms of a quality team, I don't. How can anyone say this is a stronger team pound for pound this year than it was like last year? There's not really
Yeah,
much of an argument.
no, I agree. I actually think last year's team was a little better because I think they had a better passing attack. I mean, because the Bills outside the fourth quarter against Baltimore, like their passing game was non-existent against the Jets, but it didn't matter, and it was very conservative. Like I said, Josh Allen
Yeah.
did not throw the ball down the field at all, and maybe that was just the way Miami was playing defense, but I do think the strength of the Bills is their running game. They can just gash you there with Allen and James Cook behind that very good offensive line that they have. But my biggest concern with them is their defense and their coaching. Like Sean McDermott, I still have a difficult time trusting in big games. Like he is a defensive coach, and their defense has been horrendous in all their playoff losses. And their defense this year, like I understand their personnel isn't spectacular, but you shouldn't allow Miami to go, what was it, 8 of 10 on third down. Like Miami had their way on third downs in this game. It's just not acceptable for a team playing at home against an opponent that is honestly looked like he was ready for the season to end in week 2. So look, the Bills won. They did what they had to do. We'll see how they look later on. The Dolphins, we knew they were cooked after week 1. I actually knew they were cooked before the year. And let's move on to our next game unless Lucas has any parting thoughts.
No, I do not.
All right. And I did pick the Bills to win the Super Bowl. I'm sticking with that. But they got to shore up their defense a little bit. All right. Next game, our first shutout of the year, Panthers Falcons, an upset win. The Panthers crushed the Falcons 30-0. Michael Penix was absolutely horrific in this game. He by far had the worst game of his young career. He threw 2 interceptions. He threw a pick 6 against the Panthers defense that, let's be honest, is not spectacular. Bryce Young was fine. I guess he did his job. He threw for 140 yards. Like, it was a whatever game. Bryce Young was not the story. The story here, like, not to take anything away from the Panthers, like, they got their first win. They got off the schneid. They stay alive a little bit. Both teams are now 1-2. The big story here was Michael Penix. Like, what in God's green earth was that? Like, that was an atrocious performance by the Falcons' young quarterback, leading to some speculation, like maybe they go back to Kirk Cousins, that Raheem Morris like emphatically shut down today. Michael Penix is their quarterback. And like, it makes sense. Like, he's started 6 games, so you give him time. But woof, man, like, getting shut out by the Panthers defense is ridiculous. And I don't want to overreact, but I feel like I'm kind of out on the Falcons at this point, which is odd because I thought I was not marginally, I was rather impressed with them with their win against the Vikings on Sunday Night Football, but they go out and do that against a bad Carolina team. Like, it's just not for me, man. I don't know. What say you, Lucas? Because I'm out on Atlanta.
I'm just really confused. Like, because like you saw the Falcons completely just hammered the Vikings. Like, granted, it wasn't the game. The game wasn't that far off wasn't as big of a blowout as the final score indicated in the Falcons Vikings Sunday Night Football Week 2 game. But I didn't expect after that week the Vikings to like probably have one of the biggest blowouts you'll ever see. Like, we'll talk about that game later, but that game was not as close as the final score indicated, and the Vikings won by like 38 points. And the Falcons lost. They got shut up by the Panthers. Like, if you had to bet money on who's going to be the worst defense of football, the Panthers may have been in the running for, like, they would have been like a random like top 5. They would have been the top 5 worst defenses if you had to like put money on it. But Michael Penix was the story of this game. He was horrible. And it's not like his offensive line was bad. His blocking wasn't exactly elite, but like, it wasn't bad. Like, in fact, I would go off to say his protection was actually pretty good. Like, he was only pressured on 23.7% of his dropbacks, so not even 1-4. But when he was kept clean, which means not under pressure, which means he's not dealing with pressure or blitzing or anything like that, his time to throw is 2.77 seconds. When you're kept clean, 2.8 seconds is an eternity. Like, just think of this. They count out 2 seconds, 3 seconds right now. That's basically it. When kept clean, he was 15-28 for 137 yards, no touchdowns, 2 picks. Both of those picks were his fault, and a 27.3 PFF offensive grade. That's about as bad as you'll possibly be when you're not dealing with pressure. And good quarterbacks, aren't they supposed to be really good when not dealing with the pass rush, when they get to sit in the pocket and just make good throws? Apparently not Michael Penix. Penix has a strong arm, and he's big to an extent, but he's not overly mobile and not exactly a guy who's going to dice you up and be patient. But I'm still kind of a tentative believer in him. But like, if he has like an additional 3-week stretch where he's not very good, it might be starting to have some difficult, uncomfortable conversation in Atlanta about, do they go back to the local kid, Kirk Cousins?
Yeah, look, I'm not out on Michael Penix. The man started 6 games. I thought he looked okay last year, but a big problem with him is he is not an accurate quarterback. Which, if you're not accurate, like, it doesn't matter how strong your arm is, you're not going to be successful. As for the Panthers, like, I still think they're a bad team, but congrats to them for getting a win at home, a big shutout victory. Good for Carolina. All right, next game, the biggest shocker of the week, the upset of maybe the season. The Browns get their first win. They beat the previously undefeated Packers, a Packers team that looked like, I would say, the best in football through 2 weeks, 13-10, an ugly, ugly football game. The Packers led 10-0 in the fourth quarter. Cleveland gets a field goal to make it 10-3. The Packers are driving to put the ball away. Jordan Love threw an absolutely mind-numbing interception that allows Cleveland back in the game. And then it was tied at 10, and Green Bay had the ball. They get a field goal blocked. Joe Flacco completes a pass down the middle. The Browns get lined up. They spike the ball in time. And then Andre Schmidt, I don't know if I'm saying his last name right, a guy who basically cost them the game in week 1 against the Bengals, hits a 55-yarder right down the middle. And the Browns win at home. A stunning upset. I don't know where to start. Like, Joe Flacco was horrible in this game, but they won. Jordan Love was just as bad. I mean, Jordan Love really was affected by the Browns' defensive pass rush. Just had happy feet all game, obviously through that terrible interception. Just a rough outing for the Packers offense as a whole. Their offensive line, they're without Zach Tom, their best offensive lineman. Just a brutal loss for Green Bay. And we'll start with the Packers because, Lucas, this is the team that you picked to represent the NFC in Super Bowl 60. And I lean towards the fact that this is kind of a fluke. Like, it's a road game. The weather was bad. It's a noon kickoff. They hadn't played in a while. They just didn't play well. And they play the Cowboys, who I don't think could stop 11, me, you, and 9 randoms on defense. So maybe it's a good get-right game. But, wow, like, the Browns defense, give them credit. The Browns defense is really good, despite the fact that I think as a team, they're bad. They're probably going to win like 5 games this year just because their offense is so rancid. But that is a horrendous loss by Green Bay. Horrendous. And it's one that they'll look back on when it's time to figure out playoff seedings.
Yeah, this game was shocking, but it wasn't shocking when you actually look at what happened. I have to be honest, like I'm a big PFF guy. I'm looking at the grades. The Packers team pass blocking grade in that game was what do you think the Packers offensive line got for pass blocking in terms of the
wasn't
PFF
it like
grading
27 or wasn't it in the 20s or something?
Nope, it was not in the 20s. It was 15.5.
Holy Christ.
That's about as low of a grade as I've seen for a single game pass blocking. Like that's worse than the Bengals in their Super Bowl, any Bengals playoff game. What does that tell us? I think the simple answer is the Cleveland Browns pass rush dominated in this game, and when we know and we learned that if you have a talented pass rush, you're capable of winning any game because if you can dominate one side of the trenches, it gives you that big of an advantage. And the funny thing is, the Browns' offensive line in this game was bad too. They had a grade of 26.2, their pass blocking grade. So both offensive lines were atrocious. And when that's the case, it basically makes things a rock fight. Jordan Love, I think, was bad. I think Jordan Love was pretty bad in this game. I don't think he was a train wreck like people think because he just didn't have time to throw because his offensive line was getting caved in every play. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say he was good, but when he was kept clean, I mean, his numbers were efficient. He was 14 to 16 for 166 yards, but one of the incompletions was that interception. So, like, if you take away the interception, he was 14 to 15 for 166 yards. That's actually pretty good when he was clean, but he was under pressure, just nothing he could do. He got sacked 5 times, had to throw the ball, didn't even throw a ball away in that game, which is kind of weird given how much he was under pressure. But I'm saying I still believe in the Packers. I got to see another game where they get caved in again. They play the Cowboys, don't exactly have a good pass rush. I wonder why they don't have a pass rush. We'll maybe talk about that later. But I'm not going to freak out about the Packers. They were down Zach Tom. I don't think they'll get dominated that badly again in terms of pass protection. So I'm still going to believe in the Packers, but maybe there's another team in the NFC North that maybe we should start buying stock in.
Stop or start buying stock in? Oh, there's another team. Okay, I
get we should start buying stock in. Yeah, my bad.
I get what you're saying. Yeah,
might be.
And as for the Browns, like Myles Garrett proved why he's the best defensive player in football. He dominated this football game. He is one of the best players in the NFL. He is just an absolute freak. Look, the Browns defense is going to keep them in games. Like even the Baltimore game. Look at the final score. That was a close game for a decent portion. The Ravens just put it on in the fourth quarter. But I do think their offense is just so limited that they'll hold them back. But the Browns, it's a really good defensive unit, especially up front. Myles Garrett's a big part of that. So kudos to the Browns getting their first win of the season. All right, going out to the AFC South, a brutal football game here. The Jaguars beat the Texans 17-10. The Jags improved to 2-1. The Texans, who went to the divisional round last year, each of the last 2 years, 0-3. And 0-3 is pretty much a statistical death sentence when it comes to making the playoffs. The last 0-3 team to make the playoffs, ironically enough, the Texans in 2018. But that was a different time. You can't just rely on that. And we'll start with the Texans here because I think they're the bigger story. The Texans' offense is just not functional. Excuse me, I may have inadvertently cursed there. It's not a functional offense. Like they can't do anything. They can't block. Nico Collins is really their only receiver. Stroud has been bad this year. And like he was not great last year. He has been downright bad through 3 games. He is not playing well at all, even when accounting for the surroundings. Bobby Slowick, I thought, did a poor job calling plays last year. Nick Caley is even worse. Like they got worse there. It's just look, they're wasting a really good defense. The Texans' defense is really good. A big reason why I picked them to win that division again. But man alive, they can't do a thing. Like they'll probably, I don't want to spoil anything. They'll probably win this week because they play the Titans. But God Almighty, like they just they're awful. They have scored 3 touchdowns all season. They cannot do a thing.
No, like this offensive line can't block. CJ Stroud's been bad even when he kept clean. And I'm not gonna like let this defense go. This secondary has been pretty underratedly bad this year. Like, and I know that secondary is supposed to be one of the most talented in the NFL. I'll tell you, their coverage grade isn't everything. Their secondary is clearly better than this, but just to give you some context, the Texans secondary has the 24th best coverage grade in the NFL this year. That's just not going to cut it for a team with that bad of an offense. So when the Bucs or the Jaguars needed to move the ball through the air, they were able to do it. It's not like they got lit up every single game because obviously didn't allow that many points. But if one of those teams needed to move the ball, they did against this Texans secondary. They don't have the clutch gene. They just cut C.J. Gardner-Johnson because apparently he wanted to blitz more, and they weren't letting him blitz. So they're down a good player that they traded for. But I'm getting very close to writing off the Texans. I'm not going to do so yet just because I think that division is very beatable. But they're in a position right now where this is their upcoming schedule. This is going to get very scary. They should beat the Titans this weekend. If they lose to Tennessee, they're done. Then they play Baltimore week. They play at Baltimore week 5. Good luck. Then they have a bye. Then they're in Seattle week 7. They could probably win that game, but Seattle's looked pretty good the last 2 weeks, so that's not a guarantee. San Francisco at home. I think San Francisco's really good. Then they got the Broncos week 9. If Denver's defense is really good, then that could be a problem. But I think that's a game where like it's 2 frauds or 2 teams that are not going to meet expectations. But even if they like, there's a realistic scenario. This team is 1-5 through week 7, and if that happens, their back half of the schedule isn't easy. They play the Bills week 12. They play the Colts on the road in week 13. That doesn't look like it's going to be an easy game. Maybe not the most difficult one, but not going to be easy. Then they have the Chiefs at Arrowhead on Sunday Night Football in week 14, and then they have the Chargers on the road in week 17. Like, it's not like it's going to be the 2015 Chiefs where if they start 1-5, they're just going to rattle off 10 straight wins. That's not going to happen. Like, maybe they could go like 9-8, and if they get really hot. But I think if they lose to Tennessee, I think the wheels are going to fall off really fast.
Oh, for sure. And look, given the fact that like their success the last 2 years of going to the playoffs, winning their division, winning a game, like I don't think they'll fire D'Amico Ryans even if things get really bad, but it would warm up his seat going to next year. And CJ Stroud has just regressed significantly since his rookie year. He has not been good. He is by many metrics been one of the worst starters in the league over the last 2 years, including, +3 over the last year +3 games. And I don't think he is, but he's just, I don't know. Like, I don't know if the line's just affecting him, but he has not played well. And the Jags, look, credit them for the win. They're 2-1. Trevor Lawrence was not good in this game. He didn't get a lot of help from his receivers, but no touchdowns, a pick, 50% completion rate. Not a great game from Trevor Lawrence. But the Jaguars defense stepped up, and they're 2-1 heading to the Bay Area next week. So we will see if the Jags can pull off an upset. And Lucas and I will preview that coming up. All right. Moving on to, oh my gosh, this game was an absolute killing. Lucas's hometown team, the Minnesota Vikings, absolutely wallop the Cincinnati Bengals 48-10 in a battle of the backup quarterbacks. Carson Wentz got the better of Jake Browning. Jake Browning was horrific in this game. He threw 2 interceptions. Jake Browning leads the league in interceptions, despite the fact that he did not start the first game. Isaiah Rodgers had maybe the greatest game a defensive player has ever had. He had a PFF grade of 99. Like, I didn't even know that was possible.
No. 99.9.
Yeah, like that's the highest grade ever. Like Isaiah Rodgers, who they brought in from Philadelphia, was an absolute menace in this ball game. Wentz, former Chiefs backup quarterback, was efficient. He did his job. He executed Kevin O'Connell's scheme. He wasn't overwhelming, but he did what he had to do. Man alive. Like, I don't know what to take away from this game because I don't know what to make of the Vikings at all. They're 2-1. But I don't know if this game was more about the Vikings like being good or the Bengals just being non-functional without Joe Burrow. Jake Browning just he's not he's a backup for a reason. He'll make some throws. He'll also throw you out of a game, which he tried to do against Jacksonville. He pretty much did against Minnesota. The Bengals defense we already know is terrible. But the Vikings, they're an interesting team because you look at them like they're really talented. They're really well coached on both sides of the ball, but their quarterback situation is just so dicey. Like, you expect McCarthy will be back in a few weeks. They're targeting that week 7 game against the Eagles. It's a home game. So you'll probably get Carson Wentz for 2 more games. They have a bye in week 6. But if Carson Wentz plays well and they win their next 2 games, both of them overseas, by the way, against the Steelers and the Browns, like, I don't know what you do if you're the Vikings. So it's a weird situation. Like, I'm not a big Carson Wentz guy. Like, he's just kind of who he is. He's a backup. There's a reason he's been on so many teams, but man alive, like the Bengals are the most cooked 2-1 team I've ever seen in my life. They're not good, and they're going to be out of it. 2-1 is going to turn into 2-5 pretty quickly here.
Yeah, this defense for the Bengals kind of proved that week 1 was a fluke. And to be fair, the Bengals did allow 2 defensive touchdowns to Isaiah Rodgers alone. But
Yeah,
I think we really underestimated how much of a cover-up job Joe Burrow's doing. And to be fair, this was the first full game without him. But they have the Broncos on Monday Night Football, and if that's another slaughter, there has to be some serious conversations in Cincinnati, not just about Zach Taylor's job, but the entire front office, which is run by the ownership group that is not very good.
yeah, the Bengals, like, I'm not feeling too good about them. And their schedule coming up is not easy. You have at the Denver, who like has not been impressive, but it's a road game. You have the Lions, you have the Packers, you have the Steelers. Like, I think it could get pretty scary for the Bengals here. And I don't know if we're going to see Joe Burrow again this year because they might be out of it by the time he's able to come back. But good on the Vikings, Lucas's team. What's your take on them, Lucas? Because like, it's a team you're close to. It's a team that you watch when the Chiefs aren't playing. Like, what's your read on the Vikings for 3 weeks? Because they were horrendous for 3 quarters against the Bears and great for 1. They were horrific against Atlanta. But they were absolutely dominant in this game.
I think this is a team that is they have great chemistry in the sense that when they start to figure things out and they get momentum, this entire team complements each other. We saw that against the Bears in week 4, and then in week 3 against the Bengals, like everything was clicking. Like the offense wasn't like incredible in week 3, but they didn't make any mistakes. Carson Wentz played very well. And the defense just said, we're going to take over this game. And if that's going to be the case, I would be very excited because I think J.J. McCarthy will get better as the season goes on. He's still very young. He didn't play at all last year. So the fact that he struggled for 2 weeks, I don't think should be breaking news. And I don't think we should rule him out. Like, if this defense could play even like 3 quarters as well the rest of the year and McCarthy can somewhat figure it out, this team could beat anyone because they're so talented. They're so well coached. And their offensive line, when healthy, is very good. And they have the best receiver in football, in my opinion, and a defensive coach that could team up as well as anyone.
Yeah, Brian Flores is the real deal. I mean, Brian Flores against Jake Browning is a pretty lopsided matchup. But it is interesting, like, if Wentz plays well and they win, like, you still think they'll go back to McCarthy?
Yes, I think.
Okay. I think
unless
so
they
too.
unless Carson Wentz just dominates, like it makes it very clear. Because I think, although I think Wentz was all right, he was 14-20 for 173 yards and a turnover-worthy play.
He managed the game.
Yeah.
He did his job. He didn't have to do much. You don't have to do much when Isaiah Rodgers turns into Deion Sanders for a game. So we'll see what happens. Should be interesting. Next game. This game was set football back 1,000 years. Steelers Patriots. The Steelers beat New England 21-14 on the road. Pittsburgh improves to 2-1. New England falls to 1-2. And this was a case of a team losing a game a lot more than the team that lost the game a lot more than the other team won it. And the Patriots beat themselves to hell in this one. They turned the ball over 5 times. Drake May threw an interception. The red zone, they lost 4 fumbles, which is just absolutely absurd. Drake May lost a fumble on a game-winning drive attempt. Ramondre Stevenson fumbled twice, once at the goal line, and Travion Henderson, the rookie back, also, I believe it was Henderson who had the other fumble. New England just shot themselves in the foot over and over and over again. And Pittsburgh scored in the first 2 drives. Aaron Rodgers passed Brett Favre on the all-time passing touchdowns list with a fade ball to DK Metcalf in the first quarter. And then the Steelers were just absolute comatose offensively for the rest of the game until the final drive, in which Drake May was strip sacked. Pittsburgh recovered, and then Rodgers found Calvin Austin for the go-ahead touchdown. Pittsburgh gets the last stop. They win. They get to 2-1. Man, like the Steelers, it's a very weird conundrum. We're like, yeah, they're 2-1, but like they easily could be 0-3. They're kind of pulling these wins out of their ass, which they've kind of done for the last several years under Mike Tomlin. It's just kind of how they roll. But the Patriots, they got to be sick because you got to be like, man, we outplayed these guys and we just beat ourselves.
I mean, I have to pull up these fumble numbers. It's just
it's absurd.
Just absolutely. It's like that's the exact word I was going to use. Like Ramondre Stevenson fumbled twice. Antonio Gibson fumbled once. Drake May had
it was Antonio
fumble.
Gibson. Okay, that's right. Yeah.
And then they had 4 fumbles, and then Drake May threw a pick that was his fault. I mean, that's just insanity. Aaron Rodgers sucked in this game. Like anyone who watched that game would. Like his PFF grade was 34.8. I don't care if you like PFF or not. They're not going to be that off when it comes to a grade. And the reason was Aaron Rodgers had a stupid fumble. He also had an interception that was his fault, and although he was fairly accurate, his average depth of target was like 5.6. So he never really pushed the ball down the field. He never really made an effort. Aaron Rodgers has not been that good this year. I don't care if his like counting stats look relatively nice. He's not been as good as a 7-3 touchdown interception ratio would look like. The Steelers are 2-1. You can't argue the results, but this offense is not passing the eye test, and I'm not sure if they're going to continue being this, I guess, effective the rest of the year. And I think maybe the chickens will come home to roost at some point.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Mike Tomlin teams always just kind of find ways to win, whereas the Patriots just absolutely found a way to lose this game. They got to be absolutely sick. That's one, like when you're fighting to make the playoffs, which I predicted New England would, they're going to look back and be like, man, that's a game we should have won at home. All right, next game, Eagles-Rams. Insane game here. Rematch of last year's divisional round. The Eagles win 33-26 to improve to 3-0. They're down 26-7 at one point. Jalen Hurts did nothing in the first. They had 17 passing yards in the first half. They could get nothing going offensively. And then Jalen Hurts really just kind of put the team on his back in the second half, really showed up, played as good as I've seen him play in a long time. Brought the Eagles back in this one. The Eagles defense also tightened up against the Rams, a very potent Rams offense. They blocked 2 field goals, including one to win the game by Jordan Davis. And then Jordan Davis, all 350 pounds of him, picks up the ball and runs into the end zone for a touchdown. That was pretty awesome right there. But Lucas, I mean, this Eagles team is giving me a lot of vibes of last year's Chiefs team, where they're the defending champs. They have a target on their back. And while they don't look overly dominant, they just win. They just find ways to win.
Yeah.
And you just can't argue about it because, you can say whatever you want, but the only thing that matters is the win column. And that's what they've done so far. I was very encouraged with what I saw from Jalen Hurts in that second half. They finally got A.J. Brown involved. Devontae Smith had a good game. Dallas Goedert being back really opened up the offense. And for the Rams, the Rams got to be that you had that. That's a game that you just completely blew. Matthew Stafford did not play well at all. He threw a bad interception. He missed many open receivers. Just a poor game from him after playing really well the first 2 weeks. But man, this Eagles team, there's some people that my question is, are they the 2024 Chiefs or are they the 2023 Eagles? Is this going to fall apart? Or are they going to continue rolling and get back to the Super Bowl, which I picked them to? The reason why I lean the 2024 Chiefs is that they now have Vic Fangio and Saquon Barkley and all those guys on defense like Zach Bond and Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell, which they did not have in 2023. And they have other guys who've improved like Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith, and Jordan Davis has gotten better. So they're a team that are they fun to watch? Not really. Does it always look pretty? No. But they just win. They've won every game. They've lost one game since week 4 of last season, almost a calendar year. And that was a game that Jalen Hurts got injured in the first quarter. So this team, they're 1 in my power rankings right now. I'm going to keep them at 1 until they lose. I think they've earned that benefit of the doubt.
Yeah. I mean, I do lean 2024 Chiefs. I mean, I think this team has played better than on average the 2024 Chiefs have, but at the same time, they're 3-0. I'm a man of principle. If you're the defending Super Bowl champion, you're undefeated. I'm going to call you the best team in football until proven otherwise.
Yeah,
because you've earned that right. I I do think I'll talk about the Rams for a little bit. The Rams got to be sick. I know that they were close to winning this game, but like they had to win this game because if they would have like made that field goal, even though it would have been ugly, that's one of those games where like you just got to win. Like you're on the
Yeah.
road against an elite team. It doesn't have to look sexy. Like you just got to win, be up by a game, and then get that tiebreaker. Now the Eagles have the upper hand for the number one seed. And I don't know if the Rams have a path unless the Eagles collapse. But I think the story for this game is the Rams' offensive line is a tire fire. Like
Yeah,
this is
it's
the
not
second
great.
game in 3 weeks where their offensive line got lit up by a good pass rush in week 1 against Houston and the Eagles in week 3. Both those teams have good pass rushes, and they took advantage. The Titans they weren't that bad against the Titans, but the Titans don't have an elite pass rush. This might be a problem for the Rams. Like if they can't block anyone with a solid pass rush, who are they going to beat? Like that's going to be a problem. And if honestly, if Stafford didn't play like a future Hall of Famer against the Texans, they could have lost that game too because they scored
Yeah.
14 points in that game, and Stafford like played about as perfect as you possibly can. Like if Stafford had like a semi-off game like he did here, they might have scored like 7 points and lost 9-7. So Stafford has done a lot of covering up for that bad offensive line, but if he gets hurt and they have to put in Jimmy Garoppolo, this
Oh, it's
Rams team is
over.
going to
My
collapse very
God.
fast.
Yeah, it's over. Like Jimmy Garoppolo wouldn't be able to do anything. And look, Stafford's not great in this game, but you said the line did not really help him. But again, the Rams, like that's a game. Like I still think the Rams are really good. I still think they're absolutely contenders, but that's a game that they blew. They just like similar to the Patriots. It's like a game you look back and like, man, we should have won. We outplayed them and we lost. But kudos to the Eagles. They just keep finding ways to get it done. All right, next game. Bucks Jets, another wild one. The Bucks win 29-27 on a walk-off field goal by Chase McLaughlin. The Bucks improved to 3-0. The Jets fall to 0-3 despite playing pretty hard in 2 of their 3 games. A wild sequence here. The Bucks looked like they were going to kick a game-sealing field goal, but Will McDonald makes one of the craziest plays I've ever seen. Jumps over the line, blocks it, picks the ball up, runs it back for a touchdown. Which I'm sure everyone's seen the clip of Aaron Glenn, their coach, celebrating on the sideline. He was very excited, but of course, the Jets are the Jets, and they allow Baker Mayfield to go right down the field. Baker's 3rd game-winning drive of the year, and Chase McLaughlin bounces back, kicks the field goal. The Bucks win their home opener. First 3-0 start for Tampa since 2005. They never started 3-0 in the Tom Brady era, which is pretty wild. So they escaped a win. I got to give some credit to the Jets. Like they were down big and they clawed their way back. I mean, Tyrod Taylor was not great in this game. He did throw a bad pick 6. I imagine Justin Fields will be inserted back in the lineup whenever he's able to. Baker, I thought played well. The Bucks have a ton of injuries. That's their biggest problem. They're beat to hell, especially on the offensive line, but they're overcoming them. And I don't know, like they if you're the Bucks, like you're happy you won, but you look at like, man, the Jets are really bad. We should have beaten them by more. But at this point in the season, it's about winning and stacking wins and keeping ahead in the standings. So, Lucas, what's your biggest takeaway from this one on the Bucks, who you picked to be the 1 seed this year?
I think Baker Mayfield played a lot better in this game than he did the first 2 weeks. I know he's getting like MVP
this
talk.
was his best
I think
game.
that's more, by far his best game. He had a fumble that was not good, but other than that, he played about as well as you could realistically expect. I still think this Bucks team has some growing to do. I don't think they've quite played as well as the 3-0 moniker, the 3-0 record would suggest, but that secondary played awesome. They dominated a bad team. And in terms of the Jets, Tyrod Taylor's a better quarterback than Justin Fields. Like it's just not
I
close.
agree. Yeah.
He wasn't great in this game, but like I think if you want to win, you got to go with Tyrod Taylor. But I think if I'm the Jets, I kind of want to respectfully tank, start Justin Fields, say, hey, he might be the guy of the future, so we'll give him reps. But then secretly want to lose games to get a higher pick in the draft next year and to get like Garrett Nussmeier, John Mateer. But again, I think the Bucks, although I respect that the 3-0, and I did pick them to be the 1 seed, I'm not exactly like thrilled with my pick, but maybe when they get Chris Godwin back, that offense will be flowing a lot smoother, and they are still injured on the offensive line a little bit.
Yeah, they got to get those guys back. Like the Wirfs will be back soon. Get a key. You hope to get him back. Godwin will be back eventually, as you said. And look, Aaron Glenn, I know they're 0-3. It's going to take a while to rebuild this thing, man. Like they've been the worst franchise in professional sports for 14 years. Rome wasn't built in a day. I actually do think like he's going to be a good coach eventually. It's going to take a while to turn this thing around, but I do like the fact that they have been competitive in 2 of their 3 games this year. And the one game there wasn't was against Buffalo, and Buffalo kills a lot of bad teams. So that's where we're at with the Jets. Next game, Colts Titans. The Colts also improved to 3-0. Convincingly beat the Titans 41-20. The Titans still winless on the season. And the Colts continue to roll. They've punted once in 3 games. They've been the best offense in football. Daniel Jones continues to play well within Shane Steichen's system. Jonathan Taylor's been an absolute beast this year. He's been unbelievable. Jonathan Taylor's been incredible through 3 games. He looks like the guy from 2021 who almost carried that team to playoffs. The Titans are terrible. I mean, Cam Ward, I do think is talented, but it's going needs to develop further. Brian Callahan just cannot be a head coach much longer. I don't think he's going to be there. I think he's probably gone by like week 8, week 9. I'd argue he should have been gone after last year because they were the worst team in football. His game management is some of the worst I've ever seen. But this Colts team, man, like I understand, like 2 of their 3 wins are against the Dolphins and Titans, and we'll see how they look as the season progresses. But they look awesome on the offensive side of the ball. Luana Rumo has greatly improved that defense, a defense that really struggled last year. And Daniel Jones, look, I don't want to say hater. I don't hate anybody. Most people at least, but like I've been a critic of Daniel Jones. I've always been of the belief like he is a bad quarterback. He is not good, but man, like he's playing really well. I mean, there's nothing I can take away. We'll see if this is sustainable. And I think Shane Steichen also deserves a lot of credit. Like Steichen is really good at making things easy on quarterbacks, and he's definitely benefiting from Jonathan Taylor as well. But man, he's doing the job in Indianapolis. And look, do I think they're contenders? I'm not going to go there yet. I need to see a little more. But like they're doing the job right now in Indy.
Yep. I'm gonna say I made a lot of bad predictions this year. Like my picks record has been embarrassing to say the least. Like the fact that I
barely above 500. Lucas,
I can't call myself an expert. Like and like I'm 19-26 against the spread or 19-29. Just brutal. I'm due to have a bounce back week at some point, but just a tough scene for me. But I was a guy who was like not totally down on Daniel Jones. Like I wasn't like going to say I was president of his fan club, but like I thought he could be exactly this. He could be a poor man's Alex Smith. You put him in a good situation, ask him not to make a mistake, and he'll play well. And that's what he's been this year. He's 800. He's averaged like little over like 270 yards per game. 1 touchdown per game, 4 big-time throws, 1 turnover-worthy play, and an adjusted completion percentage of like 77%. That's pretty good. He's just playing all right. He's not being amazing. Maybe he'll make like 1 or 2 plays a game, but he's playing very well. The Colts are dominating bad teams as they should. That defense I think, still has some room for improvement, but overall, I think it's played relatively well. It dominated the Dolphins, and they kind of beat up the Titans a little bit. So the Colts are a team that, if they can continue the momentum for the next couple of weeks, and potentially beat a Texans team at least once down the stretch in week 13 or week 18, this could be a team we could see a new change. We could see a changing the guard in the AFC South and a new champion.
Yeah, possible. It's very, very possible. Like Shane Steichen's my early pick for coach of the year. I think he's doing a great job. And the Titans, like I just think if the season's over, they were never going to do much this year. I picked them to win 6 games. I don't think they're reaching that number. And Brian Callahan, I feel like kind of he already is given up play calling duties. He kind of feels like a dead man walking at this point. I'm not sure how much longer he's there. All right, next game. This was kind of a surprise. Commanders-Raiders. The Commanders walloped the Raiders 41-24, despite the fact that Jaden Daniels did not play in this game. Marcus Mariota, against his former team, was the quarterback. Mariota was efficient. He did his job. The Raiders, but the big story here is the Raiders. My goodness. And this is a Raiders team that some people had expectations for. Some people picked to make the playoffs, and they win week 1. But I mean, they're now 1-2. But this is a game like it's one thing to lose; it's another thing to get blown out, and blown out by a team with Marcus Mariota at quarterback, who is he's not he's a backup for a reason. He's not been a full-time starter for a while. Gino was decent, I thought. Like he did throw 3 touchdowns. He got no help from his offensive line, the Raiders' offensive line, which was actually a decent unit last year. It was like one of the only good parts of their team, or not good, but like solid parts of their team in 2024 was their pass protection. It's been putrid this year. Their defense, we already knew, was not good. They just don't have a lot of talent on that side of the ball. But I mean, giving up I mean, they giving up 30 points to Marcus Mariota is not excusable, in my opinion. So the Commanders get the job done. They're 2-1. They got a big win, but this is a tough scene for the Raiders, and their schedule coming up not easy by any means. So Pete Carroll's got to get these guys together because this looked like the same old Raiders in this game, which I didn't think they'd be. I didn't think they'd be a playoff team, but I thought they'd be at least be competent. They were not competent in this game.
No, this is a disaster for the Raiders. I picked the Raiders to win this game, so I'm a little salty with them just because they
Yeah,
made me look like an idiot. They made me just look like a total idiot. Like they never had a shot in this game. This is a real humbling experience if you're the Raiders. I think Pete Carroll and Geno Smith, not exactly the mature combo we thought they were. They haven't played well. I think that week 1 game against New England is looking like more of anti-New England than it was pro Raiders like we thought. But I don't know if Tom Brady hiring his old nemesis and Pete Carroll and signing Geno or trading for Geno Smith was the kind of the floor raising team we thought it was. Because this team, even though they got better head coach and quarterback, they're not very talented. Like they have Brock Bowers, they have Jacoby Myers. Ashton Jeanty has failed to reach expectations, to say the slightest, just to be nice. That defense is still not very talented outside of some couple key pieces on the defensive line, but this team just it's not talented. I don't think Pete Carroll's done an awful job this year. I don't think Chip Kelly has impressed me at all as offensive coordinator.
No,
because it seems like
I hated
Kelly
that hire. Chip Kelly.
Yeah,
why is Chip
didn't make
Kelly
any sense for
coaching
them?
the NFL in 2025? I just
Yeah.
keep going, but I did not.
No,
like
I was going
that
to say
hire
it seems like Carroll and Kelly were not a good combination, but they made it anyways. It doesn't seem like Chip Kelly's utilizing their offensive talent, and that defense just isn't very good. Not a very good combination. I think the Raiders might end up being a 5-win team this year. Maybe I'm wrong, but I would be very pessimistic if I was a Las Vegas fan.
Yeah, and look, Geno, I actually thought 2 of the 3 games, I think Geno's been good. He was obviously terrible against the Chargers, but this game was not on him. Like the defense was horrible. The offensive line sucked. Humbling loss for the Raiders. And look, Commanders, good job. You win with a backup. Like it looks like, is Jaden Daniels going to play against Atlanta?
I think he's likely to play. I don't think he's a lock, but I think he is.
You're getting your quarterback back. Mariota, I guess he held the fort down. I'm not a Marcus Mariota guy. I've never been, but
me neither.
Good on him getting a win there. All right. Next game, AFC West matchup, Chargers-Broncos. The Chargers beat the Broncos 23-20 on a walk-off field goal by Dicker the kicker. The Chargers unbeaten. They're 3-0. The Broncos fall to a pretty disappointing 1-2. They've lost at the horn each of the last 2 games. Bo Nix, once again, was horrible in this game. Absolutely horrible. He missed multiple wide open receivers. Bo Nix has been one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL this season. He's actually, according to PFF, he has been the worst quarterback in the NFL this season. He has not played good football. Justin Herbert, I thought was fine. He made one absolutely insane throw to Keenan Allen in the end zone. Keenan Allen has kind of found the fountain of youth here in Los Angeles. And the Chargers find another way to win. They were somewhat fortunate to win this game, but they got the job done. They got the win at home, and Denver's got to be sick. I feel like they've kind of let two games slip through the cracks here in each of the last 2 weeks. And if you're the Broncos, you got to have some questions about the quarterback position. I know it's early. Bo Nix has been horrible this year. He's been, if you took someone who's never watched football before to ask them to watch every quarterback through 3 weeks and ask them who the worst one is, he might say Bo Nix. He has been, he's been bad. There's no other way to say it. He has stunk in 2025. Maybe he turns it around. It's still early. But kudos to the Chargers, man. This is a team that I was low on. Both of us were kind of low on before the year. They're good. They're well coached. They know what they are. They get the most out of their players. They're going to be a playoff team, which I was wrong about. Herbert has played good football, played really well against the Chiefs. This game, 3 quarters was kind of fourth quarter he came alive. So kudos to Herbert and the Chargers. But the Broncos, they got to turn some things around fast.
I think we're definitely seeing a sophomore slump with Bo Nix. Slump with Bo Nix. I think part of it is Sean Payton is putting a lot more on his plate. He's asking him to make more difficult throws, and Bo Nix has not been up to the challenge. Another part of it is Sean Payton just isn't running the ball as much. I mean, you could do a lot worse than R.J. Harvey and J.K. Dobbins. And the Broncos have a good offensive line. It's not like they're like a Chiefs team that can't run block. they can run block in Denver. I'm not sure what the heck is going on, but they're putting a lot of pressure on Bo Nix unnecessarily, not complimenting that defense, which that defense tends to get lit up in critical moments. So not exactly an encouraging sign. I don't think Denver will make the playoffs. I'm pretty confident with that. I'm not going to be shocked if they do, but right now I'm not picking them to do so. The Chargers, I don't think they're very talented, but I do think they have an identity and they stick to their identity.
Yeah,
And which is kind of
that's the
weird
big.
because
Yeah,
Omari Hampton's been a ghost this year for the most part. I think he played pretty well in this game, but has not exactly they haven't exactly used him like the player you thought they would take at like 20th overall. But their defense is solid. Justin Herbert's playing very well. Maybe the MVP. I need to see it a little bit more before I'm sure the Chargers won't charge her, but maybe they'll charge her after getting the number 2 seed in the playoffs this year for the AFC.
it's possible that Jim Harbaugh took the charging out of the Chargers. Like, I mean, they were an 11-win team last year when not many thought of them going into the year. Justin Herbert, I think, has really taken his game to the next level. And look, they're rolling. And their upcoming schedule, they have the Giants this week. They have the Dolphins in week 6. Like, they have some very winnable games. Like, this is a team that could get off to a really hot start here, or continue their hot start as they're undefeated. And the Broncos, disappointing start for them. All right, we're not going to spend a lot of time in this game. Seahawks, Saints. The Seahawks kill the Saints 44-13.
Yep.
Seattle improves to 2-1. The Saints still winless. Here's my takeaway. The Saints stink.
Yeah, they're not much to do there. I think I may have underestimated the Seahawks just a tiny bit. I think I picked them to go like 7-10. I think maybe they'll compete for the 7 seed, but this is more about the Saints. Just like, yeah, we're not going to be very good this year. We're 0-3. Let's just try and get to the offseason as fast as possible.
Yeah, the Saints are awful. Moving on, kudos to the Seahawks for destroying a bad team at home. All right, next game, Bears-Cowboys on Fox's Game of the Week. The Bears take it to the Cowboys, 31-14 to get their first win of the Ben Johnson era. Dallas falls to 1-2, and God almighty, the Cowboys defense sucks. Holy hell. Caleb Williams had maybe his best game as a pro, threw 4 touchdowns, played very well in this one. And we've been critical of Caleb Williams on this show. He played really well. But with that being said, the Cowboys defense is horrendous. They are so bad. They just are. People are going to blame Matt Eberflus. And look, I'm not a Matt Eberflus guy. They have no talent on that side of the ball. They can't do anything. They can't cover. They can't rush the passer. Williams had all day to throw. Ben Johnson was scheming up open receivers. Like they took it to him. So if you're a Bears fan, like, look, is this a game if the Bears lost? I think it could have gotten really ugly, but they won, and they won in convincing fashion. Dak, I thought, played better than the box score would indicate. He threw a really unlucky interception that clanged off of George Pickens' hands. But like the Cowboys just have no shot with this defense. None whatsoever.
No, and not only that, their offensive line's been a tire fire this year. Like Dak has played well despite having a bad offensive line, but that defense is a sieve. They can't pass protect. It's impossible to win games when you have a bad offensive line you can't defend. It's just there's no mathematical way. Even if you have a good quarterback and great receivers, you just can't do it. Look at that's the formula the Bengals were last year. We were comparing the Cowboys as a worse version of the Bengals last year.
Yeah,
that's going to be the case. They're not going to be as good as 9-8 this year.
No, and look, I think I'm a Dak fan. I think he's one of the 10 best quarterbacks in the league. He just has no help, and it's even worse with CeeDee Lamb going to be out for a few weeks here. They can't, like I said, their defense is horrendous. Their offensive line's horrendous. They don't run the ball particularly well. It's basically Dak or nothing, and it's just not sustainable. So I think the Cowboys could be in for a somewhat long year. We'll see if they turn it around, but I don't know how many games. Like, you can lose any game with a defense that's that bad. And their defense is horrible. But kudos to the Bears. Kudos to Caleb Williams for putting on a good performance and getting a much-needed win. They get the Raiders next week. So before we know it, the Bears could be 2-2, and we're having a totally different conversation about them. All right, last day of the afternoon slate, last game of the afternoon slate, Niners-Cardinals. The Niners beat the Cardinals 16-15 at the gun. A last-second field goal by Eddie Pinheiro. The Niners, despite all their injuries, are unbeaten. They improved to 3-0. The Cardinals suffered their first loss of the season. I mean, the Niners deserve a lot of credit for being 3-0, man. They are destroyed by injuries. George Kittle's out. Brock Purdy's obviously out. Unfortunately, Nick Bosa out for the year, which is a huge blow. That's winning the battle but losing the war if you're the Niners right there. But Kyle Shanahan, I think, has done excellent job this year with Mac Jones. Mac Jones was not spectacular in this game, but did what he needed to do to win. He led a game-winning drive. Kyler, I thought, played better, a little better than the box score, but just not good enough. Like Kyler's just he leaves a lot to be desired as a quarterback, I think. But Marvin Harrison Jr. had a bad drop. So like the Cardinals, like it's a team that you picked to make the playoffs, Lucas. It's a bad loss. Like you should be able to beat Mac Jones. Like if you're the Saints, fine. But like if you're Arizona, it's a game that I picked them to win. You should win, and they weren't able to get it done. But kudos to the Niners and Kyle Shanahan. Like I think Shanahan and Steichen have been the two best coaches in the league this year. And Mac Jones, you know what? He's holding the fort down, so good for him.
Yep. Pretty much the same way. I thought the Niners were going to go over their win total this year. I think their win total was at like 9.5 or 10.5. A lot of people are picking them to go under. I never understood that. Like, I wasn't sure what I was missing. Yeah, I understand right now they're hurt, so they don't have Kittle, they don't have Purdy, they don't have Bosa. So if you would have told us that would have made more sense. But Bosa's out for the year, but they're going to get the other two back at some point in the next few weeks, and they're 3-0. I think this team is going to go like 11-6, 12-5. I don't think they're as strong as that a 12-5 record would indicate, or the same team they had 2 years ago. But I think Kyle Shanahan's a really good coach. I think he's like almost like Philadelphia Andy Reid, where like he just kind of fell short multiple times, but like his team's like always relevant when healthy.
Yeah.
I think the Niners would be foolish to fire him, but I think for the Cardinals, this is a game you got to finish, man. Like you had the Niners on the ropes. They lost Nick Bosa, sorry. And you just got to win. This is brutal. Not a good look for Kyler Murray. I don't think he clutched up. I don't know how many clutch performances Kyler Murray has had since signing that big contract, but it's not very many.
Not many.
But I don't think he played horrible in this game by any stretch. I think he played all right, but it just seems like when they needed a drive, they just couldn't get it from him.
Yeah, and that's kind of the Kyler Murray conundrum right there.
And Marvin, I got to say, Marvin, as a Marvin Harrison fantasy owner, Marvin Harrison Jr. fantasy investor, not exactly been impressed with my return on investment this year. So not good.
No, I don't know, man. And the Cardinals are going to be under the lights. Everyone's going to see him tomorrow night. But man, that's a game that got away from him. All right, Lucas, with the Chiefs being who they are, we have to save them for last because they always play in the late games or the Sunday games. This week, no different. They beat the Giants 22-9 on Sunday Night Football to get their first win, a much-needed win on the season. The Giants fall to 0-3. The Chiefs defensively, once again, were outstanding. They held Malik Neighbors to 13 yards. They may have ended Russell Wilson's career. We'll get to that later on. Offensively, they were an absolute mess in the first half of that game. They couldn't do anything. They kicked 3 field goals, but who cares? They were disjointed. They were disorganized. They were unprepared. It was bad to watch. However, in the second half, they did get it together. I think Andy Reid did a better job of scheming guys open. And I think they really found something in Tyquan Thornton. Tyquan Thornton is a real player and needs to stay in the lineup even when Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy get back. Mahomes, I thought, was solid. I thought the second half, I thought he was very good. The first half, that was a little shaky. But the big story here is that the Giants are just putrid, absolutely putrid. And Russell Wilson has been benched. Jackson Dart will be their starting quarterback against the Chargers this week and barring injury for the rest of the year. But Lucas, we'll stick with the Chiefs because that's the team that we're covering. Look, they won a game they had to. They won by multiple scores, and they got on the bus, and you move on. And I do think there were some real encouraging signs in this game. I think the defense is getting back to maybe not what they were in 2023, but they're proving that maybe that week 1 performance was a bit of an anomaly. And I think the offense showed some signs of life in that second half. And once they get their receivers back, I think they can maybe get going. They got a lot of work to do, but they ultimately got a much needed win on the road.
Yeah, I mean, this is a game they had to win. Like, I would have preferred it to be a little bit more sexy, but they won by 13 points. I don't know what else you could ask. Mahomes was not good in this game by any stretch. Like, I think overall he played pretty bad. Like, he PFF charged him with 4 turnover-worthy plays. Like, and I think that was accurate.
He had a pick that was dropped late in the game, yeah.
Yeah, and you could make an argument that one of the fumbles, because they charged him for both those, like, weird backwards passes, that they gave him a turnover-worthy play for both, because, like, he threw the ball backwards. Like, I don't know what else you want to do. Don't have a quarterback do that. You could argue one of those was on Pacheco because Isaiah Pacheco just turned the wrong direction, and if he would have
Yeah,
faced the wrong way, he
jeez.
just would have caught it, and the ball would have never been in his possession. But very sloppy games from Mahomes. He had a few misses. By far his worst game of the year, but I think he's going to be better. Xavier Worthy should be back this week, and the Giants. I think they made the right decision going to Jackson Dart. Yeah, they probably could have waited one more week for them to play the Saints instead of the Chargers, but I think getting a home start is going to be very good for Jackson Dart to make his debut because I think the Giants fans are pretty accepting that they're not going to be good this year. So I think going from 0-3 to 0-4 is not going to be devastating, and maybe opening his career at home is going to be a good thing for his momentum and his confidence.
Yeah, and I agree. And look, he's facing a tough Chargers defense that is really well coached. I'm sorry, I keep moving my computer. I like sitting forward, but the lighting makes it kind of difficult to see. So people might be bothered by me moving my computer back and forth. So moving my computer back and forth, I'll be aware of that moving forward. But so let's talk about this move because it was inevitable. We all knew it was coming. I thought it'd be a week later because if you want to start him, it's against a team that's as bad as the Saints. But let's talk about Russell Wilson here a little bit. Russell Wilson benched after 3 weeks, and it kind of feels like it's kind of over. Like he's going to be with the people are saying like the Giants might trade him. I don't see that happening. I don't see anybody trading for Russell Wilson at this point. He'll just be there for the rest of the year as the backup. And you got to wonder, like Russell Wilson has had a really poor ending to his career. Whereas the Denver tenure was obviously a disaster. The Steelers tenure started well, but it really, really fizzled out. And then we all know what's happening here with the Giants. It just didn't work. So Lucas, like, do you think this is it for Russell Wilson? If this is it, is he the first quarterback to play himself out of a Hall of Fame trajectory? Because I think he is. I think if he retired after his last season in Seattle, I think he'd have a really strong case to be in the Hall of Fame. However, these last 4 years have kind of just ruined it for him. It's very strange. So, Lucas, what's your thoughts on this? And do you think this is the end of the road for Russ?
I do think he's played his way out of a Hall of Fame career. Like if you would have asked me at the end of his Seattle tenure, I would have said yes because like I think
I
at
would
that
have too.
point he had been to 2 Super Bowls, very close to winning 2 of them, but obviously did not for a very obvious play.
Yeah.
I just think it's kind of proven that like when he left Seattle to Denver and then went to Pittsburgh and still in New York, he's not an old quarterback by any stretch. I mean, right
No, he's
now he's like 35. Like even in Denver when he struggled, he was like 33. Like 33 is not
Yeah.
old by any stretch. Kind of like putting everything into perspective. Granted, Nathaniel Hackett was a problem, but even with Sean Payton, he just wasn't very good. I just think in terms of end of the road, I gotta think maybe I don't know if there's going to be a team next year that signs him. I think the
No.
best realistic path is maybe there's a starter that gets hurt in training camp, like blows up their ACL, and they take a flyer on Russell Wilson in training camp, kind of like maybe like Carson Wentz. He does kind of what
Yeah.
Carson Wentz has done the past couple of years, where he just signs very late in the year to be a backup. I mean, Carson Wentz signed with the Chiefs in April, but like do it what Carson Wentz did this year. Wait to get a call, maybe sit out training camp because hang out at home with Ciara. But then if a quarterback gets hurt for like 6 weeks or longer, maybe he signs with that team and just gets a chance. Maybe gets one final chance. But I can't say with any greater than 20% certainty he's going to be a starter next year in any way.
No, I don't think he's on a roster by training camp because like he's not going to be with the Giants next year. Obviously, that's not happening. It's a 1 year deal, so like they just won't re-sign him. Yeah, I don't know what's next for Russ. I think he should probably retire after this year. Like I just think it's time. Like he can't play anymore. And like
Yeah.
he'll have some games like week 2, like that was kind of like someone compared it to like your old dog showing like signs of energy before it passes away. That was what it was for Russell Wilson that game against the Cowboys in an oh so good Cowboys defense. All right. Last game, Monday Night Football, the Lions beat the Ravens. Shoot, I already went ahead to week 4. Bad job by me. The Lions beat the Ravens 38-30. And we'll start with the Lions here because this is a team that I picked to miss the playoffs, and their performance in week 1 kind of reaffirmed that. They laid an absolute egg against the Packers. Jared Goff looked horrible in that game. But the last 2 weeks, they hang a 50 burger on the Bears. Goff throws 5 touchdowns. And in this game, they hang 38 points in Baltimore. Goff, once again, was excellent in this game. He made some absolutely ridiculously good throws. Amon-Ra St. Brown played really well. They ran the hell out of the football. The last 2 weeks, Lucas, the Lions looked like the Lions from last year. Like they looked like that team. And a reason why I was skeptical is like, how are you going to replace Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn? And John Morton, the last 2 games has been excellent. They've scored 50 plus points. How many they score against the Bears, Lucas? 51 points and
52.
38 points. 52.
Yeah.
52 and 38 points. And Calvin Shepard, I think, has done a nice job as a defensive coordinator with a defense that really doesn't have any blue chip players besides Aiden Hutchinson and Brian Branch. It's like they're just so well coached. And it turns out Dan Campbell, he was the brains behind that operation. It's still early, but I kind of feel like an idiot for picking the Lions to miss the playoffs. I should have known better. Lucas, what say you? Did the Lions win you back with this game? Because like they won me back for sure.
They did. They did for sure.
Yeah.
And I picked the Lions to make the playoffs just because like I thought they had too much talent, but I did think there would be a learning curve. I don't think that learning curve is going to happen. I think that this team is going to be a formidable. They have the Browns next week and the Bengals the week after that.
Yeah.
They should win both those games by an average of 20 points, if not more. That was a butt whooping they did to Baltimore. Like that was I know they only won by 8 points, but like they physically dominated Baltimore, especially in the second half. Penei Sewell, I know Isaiah Rodgers gets all the love for having a 99.9 grade. He had a 98.7 PFF grade.
Oh yeah,
like,
he's insane.
And he had a 99.3 run blocking grade. So like anytime Penei Sewell, you ask him to run block, he's pretty much the anti-Jawan Taylor, where Jawan Taylor is a solid pass blocker, horrible run blocker. Penei Sewell is an elite run blocker and a really good like pass protector. Not an elite pass protector. I don't think Sewell is like a shutdown pass protecting tackle, but I still think he's very good. But I think this Lions team is just way too talented, and I think you could make an argument that Ben Johnson was maybe a fraud, but I think John Morton is really smart. So maybe they just happen to make another really good offensive coordinator hire and Ben Johnson really was that good. But I think you at some point you just got to rely on a team having good players, and the Lions have good players, and they have a head coach that I think the players believe in.
Yeah, Dan Campbell is excellent. Like that fourth down call was just so gutsy. And look, Jared Goff is a guy that you and I both, Lucas, like we're kind of been so on him. Jared Goff has been superb these last 2 weeks. He has played perfect football. So kudos to Jared Goff. He was awesome in this game. Let's talk about the Ravens though, because they're 1-2. They head to Kansas City, a game that we'll quickly preview, make our picks for. Like the Ravens, I know they have injuries. Nnamdi Adembike didn't play. Kyle Van Noy didn't play. Isaiah likely hasn't played yet. But man, like this is a team, I think they have some real issues. I still think they'll make the playoffs. I still think they'll win their division, even if they lose to Kansas City. But they got to figure some shit out, man. Like Lamar Jackson played much worse than the box score would indicate. He took 7 sacks. Some of those were on him. He held on the ball way too long. But the big problem with the Ravens is not Lamar. It's Derrick Henry fumbling at the worst possible times. And their defense is literally the worst defense in the NFL statistically, behind the Cowboys and the Bengals, which tells you everything you need to know there.
Yeah, I think the Ravens will end up winning the division because I just don't believe in any other team in the AFC North. You can't pick the Browns or the Bengals to do anything, and I don't believe in the Aaron Rodgers-led Steelers. So I think by default this Ravens team will win their division, but man, they have a lot of problems right now. That defense is not playing up to their talent level, and that offense has some problems. Lamar has not been the same guy this year. Derrick Henry has fumbled in every game. Just doesn't seem like they're firing on all cylinders. This is going to be a really important game this weekend between the Chiefs and the Ravens. Both teams are 1-2. Both teams have looked really bad on offense at times. Both teams would really, really be not well served by a 1-3 start because I think if Baltimore loses this game, I think them being the 1 seed, that's out of the picture. Because at least if the Chiefs lose this weekend, they could theoretically still beat Buffalo in like week 9 or whenever that game is. But if the Ravens lose this game and the Bills can get to 4-0 against the Saints, they're 3 games down and the Bills have the tiebreaker. Baltimore is going to have to go on the road in the playoffs this year to go to the Super Bowl. I don't think that's going to happen. The Ravens have to win this game, and if the Chiefs want to avoid a locker room meltdown, they got to win their second home game of the year. In their
Absolutely.
second home game of the year.
Yeah, for sure. Like I think the Chiefs need the game more than the Ravens do because of the division that they're in. And one silver lining for the Ravens is like they started like they were they were an offensive juggernaut in the regular season last year, but they started slow last year. They were 1-2. They had the same record. They lost the Raiders at home, and then Lamar just got absolutely rolling. Like Lamar leads the league in touchdowns. I do think he's been a little worse than the box score would indicate. But he's still a phenomenal player. Like they'll have a chance in any game that he's in. But they got to figure some shit out. Luckily for them, their division not looking as tough as we thought because, like I said, the Browns, the Bengals, we'll see what the Steelers are. But yeah, bad loss for the Ravens. And it begs the question, Lucas, before we finish up here. You got to wonder, was 2023 their shot and did they blow it against the Chiefs at home? It really makes you wonder because like that was the best team they've had and they just didn't get it done. So it's unfortunate, but we'll see what happens the rest of the year. All right, Lucas, real quick. There are 6 3-0 teams. We're going to rank them from 1 to 6 really quickly because it's getting pretty late. Best to worst, most legitimate to least legitimate. So with that said, so I have the Eagles at 1. They're the defending champs. They deserve to be there. The Bills at 2. The Bucks at 3. Chargers 4. Colts 5. 49ers 6. The reason I have the Niners at 6 is the injuries. The Nick Bosa injury really kind of makes me put them there. I would have put them ahead of the Colts if that didn't happen, but unfortunately it did. So to rehash, Eagles, Bills, Bucks, Chargers, Colts, Niners.
We're pretty similar. We only differ
Okay.
on 2 teams because we can't differ on 1 team. We have to differ on 2. Eagles 1, Bills 2, Bucks 3, Chargers 4, 49ers 5, Colts 6. Maybe you can make an argument 5 and 6 are interchangeable. Like I think you're perfectly valid for having the Niners at 6, but I kind of trust that infrastructure of a team more than I do the Colts. So that's one of my main reasons for having the Niners ahead. And I also think Brock Purdy is a better quarterback than Daniel Jones. So that's why I got the Niners ahead, but it's not that much of a margin. I think the Colts have looked better, but I think they might come back to earth at some point.
Yeah, it's possible. And speaking of come back to earth, they play their best opponent this week in week 4 against the Rams. And that leads us to our week 4 picks, which is a segment that Lucas has not been kind to Lucas through 3 weeks. A long season. There's a long way to go. So our records through week 3, I am 34-14. Lucas is 26-23. So Lucas, you got 14 weeks to make up some ground here. Or excuse me, 15 weeks to make up some ground here. Used to be a 17-week season. I'm still getting used to it, even though it's.
I think I should go first with the picks this week. Maybe that's what I need to get me back into flow.
All right,
into flow.
let's do it.
Pick the games first. I'll go first for a change. Cardinals Seahawks to open the week. I'm going to go with the Cardinals to win at home. I'm kind of been a Cardinals guy this year. I picked them to make the playoffs, so give me them. Then in the Vikings Steelers Ireland game, I'm going to go with the Steelers plus 2.5. I'm not sure who I'm going to pick to win that game, but I'm probably going to take the Vikings, but in a very, very close game. But give me the points with the Steelers. Then the Giants host the Chargers. I'm going to take the Giants in an upset victory.
Whoa.
I will take them to cover plus 6.5, but I need to start taking some shots. I think Brian Daboll is going to coach I think he's going to try and have the game of his life. I know you could have made the argument he should have done that on Sunday Night Football against the Chiefs, but Chargers coming it down. This is really Brian Daboll's last chance. If Jackson Dart stinks for 3 weeks, Daboll's done. There's no path for him to stay on the coach, other than if Jackson Dart is good. But he may be screwed after that. Saints Bills minus 16.5. They're going to cover. That's what I thought against the Dolphins, but I think maybe they won't prove me wrong 2 games in a row. Buccaneers hosting the Eagles. I'm going to take the Bucks plus 3.5 and to win. The Bucks seem to own the Eagles, especially in Tampa, so give me them. Lions, I think, are going to beat the brakes off the Browns minus 8.5. The Browns their goal is to get a pass rush. The Lions have a decent offensive line, especially at the tackle, so I don't think Myles Garrett's going to go nuts in this game, so give me Detroit to win by like 9 or 10, barely cover. Then the Falcons host the Commanders. I think the Falcons are going to bounce back. I'm going to keep riding with Michael Penix, but if they embarrass themselves this week, I'm done with Atlanta. Titans, I think, will cover plus 7.5, but I think the Texans will win. Then I will take in the Carolina New England game. I'm going to take the Patriots to win, but Carolina to keep it plus 5.5. Then the Rams are hosting the Colts. I'm going to take the Rams. I think they're going to cover minus 3.5. I think Daniel Jones's magic carpet right ends. Jaguars, I think, are going to go into Santa Clara and get a win, beat the Niners, and cover the plus 3. Then the Bears at the Raiders. I'm going to take the Bears to win minus 1.5. I just think the Raiders are done. I think Caleb Williams will have another nice game. Then the Ravens, I think, will beat the Chiefs. Not an upset because it's minus 2.5 for them. Packers, I think, will beat and cover the Cowboys minus 7. Micah Parsons will want a revenge game for the wrongs that Jerry Jones did to him. Then Dolphins and another Monday night doubleheader. I'm going to take the Broncos. Sorry, I picked the games out of order. The Monday night games is why I fumbled there. Dolphins, I think, will cover and win the plus three. Oh, God, I'm just out of my mind right now. I'm so flushed from all my terrible picks. Dolphins will win, and they'll, of course, cover the plus three. Broncos, I think, will win and cover the 7 points. I understand Bo Nix has been bad. The Bengals with Jake Brown against the Vikings were worse. There's no way the team that showed up against Minnesota, if that same exact team shows up, they're going to lose by a touchdown to pretty much anyone who's somewhat competent.
All right. So Lucas went through his picks, some pretty
Yeah,
out of the box
I, I
ones
need
there.
I need to make up ground, so I got to stop playing it safe. I might bury myself in a bigger hole, but I need to go. I
Yeah.
need to go for the win.
This could get ugly quick. This could be like Super Bowl 59, where I'm the Eagles and Lucas is the Chiefs, and it just kind of gets away from him. All
Yeah,
right, Cardinals Seahawks tomorrow night, Thursday football. I'm taking the Seahawks. I think Mike McDonald's defense is going to create some problems for Kyler Murray. Kyler was really bad against that defense both games last year. So I think the Seahawks win, and a team that's kind of proved me wrong so far this year. Steelers Vikings across the pond in Dublin. Oh, man, this is a tough one. I think this is gonna be a pretty ugly game because like I don't trust either of these quarterbacks. I'm gonna take the Steelers though. I think and the reason why is that I think Carson Wentz is gonna make a back-breaking mistake that will cost the Vikings the game. I think Mike Tomlin's voodoo magic will continue, and I think the Steelers will win a relatively low scoring one here to get to 3-1. Falcons Commanders. I'm going to take the Commanders, especially if Jaden Daniels plays. I just don't like the vibes for the Falcons right now. I don't trust Raheem Morris, and my confidence in Michael Penix is slightly waning a little bit, although I'm not ready to write him off. But the Commanders are ultimately the better team. Bills Saints. I mean Bills. I mean that's not hard. The Bills will win this game easily. Lions Browns again not hard. I'll take the Lions in a blowout. Texans Titans. I think the Texans desperately win. They're better than the Titans, even with the way they played this far. And they win this game out of pride. And the Titans just kind of feel hooked at this point already. Patriots Panthers. I'll take the Patriots to win at home and bounce back after giving a game away, literally last week against Pittsburgh. Giants Chargers. I'll take the Chargers. I mean, I just don't see how Jackson Dart in his first start will do anything against this Chargers defense. I think it'll be relatively close, but I think the Chargers ultimately win. Bucks, Eagles. I'm going to take the Eagles in this one. I know they've struggled against the Bucks in Tampa, but if you remember that was the last game that they lost that Jalen Hurts played the full game, but they had no AJ Brown, no Devontae Smith, no Lane Johnson in that game. All those guys will likely play in this one. Lane Johnson, I know he got hurt last week, so I think the Eagles win against a Bucks team that has won in the last play in all three of their wins this year. Rams, Colts. I'll take the Rams at home to bounce back. This is a step up in weight class for the Colts, and I think they kind of feel it a little bit against a Rams team that's probably pissed off with the way that game ended in Philadelphia. Niners, Jags. I'll take the Niners. I know the Jags are 2-1, but I do not like what I've seen from Trevor Lawrence thus far this year. I think Robert Saleh is going to have his way with him, and the Niners, against all odds, with all these injuries, will start 4-0. Chiefs, Ravens. Give me the Chiefs. The Ravens are beat to hell. They're without a bunch of guys. The Chiefs need to win this game to have any shot to win the division, in my opinion, whereas the Ravens have a little more margin for error. So give me the Chiefs at home, getting a much needed victory here. Raiders, Bears. I agree with you. I'll take the Bears. I just think that win against the Cowboys maybe gets them going. Uh, Caleb Williams seems like a guy that plays well against bad defenses. He's yet to really prove himself against good teams, but the Raiders, to this point, are not that. So I like the Bears in this one. Cowboys, Packers. Give me the Packers. I think they bounce back. I think they're going to put it on Dallas in this one. Dolphins, Jets. Give me the Jets. I think Aaron Glenn gets his first win as the Jets head coach, and they get their first win of the season. And then Broncos, Bengals. I'll take the Broncos in this one. Jake Browning on the road in Denver. I just don't like it for the Bengals, and Denver gets a victory that they need badly. All right, so to go through it, actually, you all heard it. You can rewind if you want. It's running late. Lucas, do you have any parting thoughts?
other than we have fair amount of disagreements this week, and so I'm either going to get a lot closer to closing the gap, or it's going to get late early for me in terms of our pick competition.
Yes, although it is a long season. That's what they all say. All right, thank you very much,
Yep.
everybody. We'll see you next Monday to recap the action of Week 4. That kicks off tomorrow night with Arizona and Seattle. All right. Thank you.